Hey there, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of Bulls versus Bears, EP110. We're getting up there. Oil explodes higher as Trump whacks the hornet's nest in Iran. Um, he, I, yeah, look, it's not been a great. I think he thought this was going to be over really quickly, and not really panning out that way. Where's it, Kai Chen?
So
No.
like the image of the hornet's nest. It it looks pretty interesting. I think you definitely opened up a can of worms.
Well, yeah, but they're particular. They're Iranian. They're Iranian hornets.
Mm.
Or was it drone swarm? Who knows?
Oh,
There's a whole. It works on a whole number of levels, that one. And it'll be interesting to see the little animated video that this thing that Grok comes up with tonight. So it'll be funny to see. Now, overall, look, we're down on the week. So, buddy, you and me, baby.
that's
I
it,
mean, you're
JT.
you're out you're out
Smoking.
ahead. JT, he's the reason he's actually not here this week is he's because he's too ashamed of himself is why he's not here. But no, he because he's playing that contrarian game. I do have your submissions here for this week. But we'll get onto that a little bit later. But we have recovered a little bit. This is as of this morning. The SPY actually ended up today, and that's because Trump has allowed Russian oil tankers stranded at sea that are under sanction to be able to now sell their oil. So um, yeah, so the Russians must be just chuckling to themselves, going, "What is this idiot? He's just not thought this through in any way, shape, or
Come
form."
come crawling back
Yeah,
to.
yeah. So, and you got to feel for those poor sanctioned Russian ships that have been hanging out there for ages. But apparently, it goes on all the time, according to my mate David. And but I'm pretty sure they'll take their opportunity. But but despite that, we've had oil up like, oh, God knows how much. It got to 120 on Monday morning. Came screaming back to 80. So anyone who says that my theory about algos running the market isn't true, I think can probably bugger off now. Because that sort of stuff never used to happen in a million years. But back when humans did the market. But basically, the International Energy Agency has released 400 million barrels. The US has released 170 million. We've released 20. That's like 3 hours worth of the Strait of Hormuz being open. But yeah, but equities overall, and this is all about inflation, isn't it, Kai? Like, it's
Yeah.
we've seen bond yields head higher because everyone's worried about inflation. Because the longer it's shut, I mean, he was declaring victory, like this time last week, and now we're talking naval mines. We're talking, it was always 4 to 6 weeks, and we've got a little. What we're going to basically focus on a little bit later in the show is, historical examples of how the US, because they're the big swinger in the room, and they've got the most amount of missiles. How guerrilla warfare has probably led them to misjudge a few situations over the course of history,
The
and the
thing
Russians have
is,
done it as well.
well, the funny thing is that they keep repeating the same mistakes over and over again, right? It's this is definitely not the first excursion that U.S. military has gone overseas. I mean, uh, what's the track record? You got Iraq, Afghanistan, even going back further, Korean
Well,
War,
Iraq
Vietnam.
too, Korea, Vietnam. In fact,
Exactly,
look, to be honest with you, I think World War I and World War II are their only wins. Um,
pretty much.
I mean, so and look, if you're American and you're listening right now, like seriously, leave the hate mail out. Like they're like just a passing comment. I don't need I don't need anyone
And
blowing up
it's
about
more.
that.
I
The
think it's
Trumpy
more
people get
so.
really fired up on socials, so I just want to apologise in advance.
But I think the MAGA crowd. Well, I mean, that's the reason Trump got elected, right? Because he promised no more foreign wars. And I think,
And
yeah,
well, look, I mean, Venezuela was a kidnap. Greenland didn't eventuate. Apparently, they're talking Cuba.
Yeah, right.
I'm not entirely sure why. Apart from 1960s motor vehicles, I don't think Cuba's in cigars. They haven't got a lot of. I don't think there's critical minerals there, or oil, but I think that may have been just a distraction tactic. But I mean, he's had 200 press conferences this week, and the level of delusion has been like we were in stitches on Monday, or was it Tuesday morning? We're all sitting here watching him go through and trying to pitch this as a win, and essentially, saying he was, oh, we don't even need oil. Like, we're doing China a favour. Like, and we were just laughing and rolling on the floor. But yeah, this is all inflation, right? So, I mean, when we're in good inflationary environments, it means you can't really cut rates. Trump's already asked Powell to cut rates this week. Sorry, as he calls him, too late, Powell. But I mean, look, I don't think there's it's definitely not it doesn't cause hikes necessarily because it's inflation that stymies growth. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, I mean, well, they have to hike if inflation breaks above a certain amount, right? I mean, even before the crisis happened, what inflation was at 3.8%. If this goes on for longer than a month, we're in a bit of trouble because even if oil stays at around the $100 level, it's not good.
But I mean, it's in everything. Like it's not just your petrol, but you've got to think about everyone who delivers anything anywhere is using petrol. Uber Eats, that goes up. Delivery vans, petroleum's in everything, like plastics and God knows what. So, China has shut off export of all finished refined fuels as well, which kind of went under the radar because, as per usual, Trump's just kind of, just talking over the top of everyone. Look, pretty obvious. The oil stocks are up. The cyclicals were down, and then guys with loads of cash and free cash flow were up. So, I mean, that's really the equity market this week. The morning report, for instance, it's just you're just monitoring the situation because no one can make a real decision about anything, monetary policy or stock market wise, really, until we know how this is going to pan out. So it's probably not that's not the worst market map in the world. It's not Armageddon. It was enough for you and I to knock young JT on the head as a little contrarian with his options theory last week. But yeah, so look, I mean, Oracle did bounce back on a really good result about revenue. That was really the only corporate story I've got to say that I can remember. Adobe didn't do so well. It was down 7%. Excuse me. The banks are down because it's been a long week. The banks are down because of private credit and just general, cyclical concerns. JPMorgan, importantly, has marked down all private credit in their portfolios and is backing away from lending to any private credit funds. And look, Jamie Dimon's a bit of a bear, but that's just another thing on the pile of pressure on private credit on top of, what else is going on as well. So, Aussie market, BHP down. I mean, we would have had, this is as of this morning, so we would have had a bit of recovery in a few of these things. But Linus did a deal with Japan, I think. The oil companies are up, but not really up like they should be, I wouldn't have thought. And look, Pro Medicus, WiseTech, Technology One. Yes. Anyone who watched our webinar this week, and anyone who invested in our, in our enhanced growth strategy the week before, we're doing pretty good. I mean, it's almost worth a curling of the mow. But yeah, so they're a little bit bombarded, and it's been, as you can see by this market map, it's been a difficult week to get a green square. Pro Medicus got a couple of contracts this week, did they not?
Yeah, 40 million worth of Aussie dollars worth of contract out of the US. So that's pretty positive for Pro Medicus.
Yeah, so I mean, look, they're starting to on the comeback trail. Just about 90% to go until they hit my target. Hey, so look, gold, silver, we're down. I mean, or roughly slightly up for the week, but kind of down the day. The big dog obviously is oil, and crude, which that was at one stage, and up 45 odd on Monday morning, and then it calmed down. Excuse me again. Oh my lord! It's been a very long week trying to keep up with all of everything. But yeah, we've been to 120, and that was like that thin Monday morning. But look, I mean, yeah, as you can see here, that's where we got up to Monday morning, and then we're back to around this 95 area. And look, I just can't help but think we're just going to continue to grind higher up to here again in the near term. So for the very reasons of so we did this graphic last week, and there was 40 plus tankers every day. This is not even 2 to 4 now; it's 0, and that means it's 2 million barrels a day not getting through. Which is enormous, essentially. Sorry, that would be 1 to 2 million. Normally, it's 20 million barrels a day. So it's huge, basically. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over, because this was a bit of a late starter, but we're and in terms of this infographic, but it's around disruption, not destruction. So, where are we here? There we go. So it's 20% of global oil through Hormuz. 750 plus tankers are stranded. $6 gas, and it's 33 kilometres the strait at its narrowest point. So basically, all of those different things. But so for Iran attacks, it costs anywhere from 20 to 50K, and then versus US is spending 1 to 4 million to counter those attacks. So look, there we go. Like drones are 50 grand, naval mines are 10 to 20 grand, and this is what mine cleanup is millions a day. Not just and I've learned way too much about mine sweeping ships today. They're actually super old, like they're 50 to 100 years old, because they don't really make them anymore. They are remote controlled. They're wooden hulled with a fiberglass out, so it looks like they're steel, but they're not. They're made to look like they've got steel because the mines are magnetic. So they've got high powered magnets. So if you've got a shipping container, like a tanker going through with a steel hull, these things will just, particularly when your strait's so narrow, the Hormuz Strait's so narrow, and then they just gravitate towards them essentially, and then they'll blow them up once they hit. And then this is their low cost toolkit. So they've got 10,000 drones. They can make thousands a week, and they reckon the number that's been bandied around is 5,000 naval mines. Trump has claimed that he has destroyed all of them, but apparently the UK Navy has confirmed in a report that it's literally guys in rowboats taking mines out. I mean, it's not high tech stuff, and they're dropping them in. So, and there are ones that sit on the bottom, and then they remotely will send them to the surface. So So from a radar point of view or a sonar point of view, they're not floating around, so they can't identify them. There's not a lot of, it's a nightmare. But all they need is the doubt. So if you're driving a tanker full of flammable liquid, are you taking the risk? What do you reckon? Like, not a chance in hell. So, like,
Basically,
some
they're encouraging them. Apparently it's going to be insured. I don't know. Even if it was insured, I don't know. I'm not sure if you want to take that risk as the captain of the boat.
no, I'd let someone else drive, but I wouldn't be driving.
Mm.
But and look, and that was sort of where, and look at these look the guerrilla playbook basically, and it's unambiguous, cheap, sustained, asymmetric tactics consistently exhaust superpowers. And so, look, we've got the Vietnam War, that was 20 years. The Soviet-Afghan War, which was 10 years. Then there was the US-Afghan War, which was 20 years. That's the longest ever they've been caught up. And then even just this Houthi thing, like they've been disrupting that shipping port for for what, 2 years. So so scenario A, where it's basically drones only, like we're talking maybe 2 to 4 months. But yeah, but scenario two is where if there is mines deployed, like we're talking 6 months. So that's anywhere up to 10% CPI, I think, on
That's
or
really worrying,
thereabouts.
yeah, because if it's, I mean, 6 to 12 months, I don't think there's enough reserves to release to keep the price down, right? Like,
I don't
it's
think,
too
no,
concerning.
not at all. So
Mm.
yeah, the biggest military on earth can sink Iran's navy in days, but it can't easily unsink the global economy. That's a good it's a good quote there. I'm not entirely sure who that's from. It's not particularly great English, but but, I get the point. But basically, look, it's yeah, there we this anything outside of this 2 to 4 months is a disaster. So
Mm.
so yeah, we look there, and the Iranians have said that they're digging their heels in. They're not, they want to keep it closed. So realistically, let's be reasonable and call it 3 to 4 months. Be interesting to know. I mean, there is a fair few. What does it say? 20 million barrels. If you're looking at 3 months, yeah, that's a lot of. We're talking a billion. Like, that's a lot of barrels. You're gonna have to, what's also happening is that because the Saudis etc. can't produce either because their reserve tanks are full and no one can empty them. So so the Iranians have really they've got a very small area to defend, and they can genuinely upset the apple cart big time, which is a huge. So I'm not sure what's going to happen here, and we did put out a rec to buy triple O at the start of the week, and we were calling clients to buy it, which is the oil ETF. The rec was supposed to go out, but we had some technical issues on that day. But most people got the gist. But down around in those 80s. But it's moving so fast that sometimes by the time you get the recommendation out, it's 15% higher. It's within half an hour. So, but it is what it is. But it's just one of those things. But yeah, look, that's the big point essentially, is that they don't have to. They've just got to survive. And disrupt, and they will get their way overall. So it was we don't need to look at that because we just looked at that. And yeah, so look, I mean, we sit up here. It's going to be inflationary. We're locked in for a rate hike next week here in Australia as well.
That's probably the biggest concern, outside of, the immediate oil price spike, right? Because if you think about the medium term, but the bond markets have already reacted to it. Hopefully we are in the optimistic scenario where it's like 2 to 4 months. But if it drags on for longer, it's quite concerning where equity valuation is at the moment, right? So like, if bond rates spike, it's not going to be fun.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think we're back at 430 or something like that in the US Treasuries in the 10
Mm.
years, and that's getting back. It's not record highs. I think we got to five, didn't we? But
I was,
we were talking 3 to 4 25 basis point cuts earlier in the year. So, well, not earlier in the year, but actually no, earlier in the year. It's funny. Like this, Trump's just blitzkrieg on everything is just it's just so difficult to keep up with. And it's we were doing I noticed at the like when we were doing the laughing at the Trump thing earlier in the week, we sort of came up with inspired by your 5 pillars from the software survivors thing. I came up with the Trump truthiness index, and it's really like he was just absolutely rambling. Some of the stuff that was coming out of his mouth, we could not believe how bad it was, basically. So and just just off the back of that, realistically, I came up with this index, the truthiness index, and I'm just going to bring it up here in a second, but basically, we try to measure, the level of hyperbole he used or exaggeration, using words like the greatest, et cetera, et cetera. How much he was rambling, the length of the press conference, how many unfounded and anecdotal statements, and which basically then came up with a mark out of 5 for, here we go, for a level of delusion, basically, and. So I set this framework up, and then I fed in a couple of his previous, because there's loads of websites with transcripts of his press conferences, and the one on Tuesday it ranked at 5 out of 5. It was like the most delusional, and I love the fact that, so obviously this is AI writing, assessing this, but extreme grandiosity, reality divergence. He explained it as a short excursion, well ahead of our initial timeline by a lot. Like it was so, and then relentless superlatives in nearly every sentence. Basically, we wiped out every single force in Iran, very, very completely. Like it is just, it is. They have no navy, they have no communications, they have no air force. Some people could say they're pretty well complete. This short excursion is something that should have been done for the last 50 years. He said that no president in the past has ever had the guts to do it, and he's the one that had the guts. But and he claimed this is Monday. He claimed total victory on Monday, and he said that oil prices will be coming down very fast. And he threatened to hit the electricity grid, which he didn't do. And then, it went for 90 minutes, 90 minutes. And we were watching, and we were just giggling. And then his press conference today, he's just trying to keep it up. And what did JT pointed out? He goes, he was talking about whether he would take the Iranian soccer team for the World Cup.
Yes.
Oh, So this is something that, based on the response I got on socials from the morning call, is something apparently I'm now going to have to keep running because people quite enjoyed it because in a way, look, JT was right a few weeks ago where it's been it's not nice. Essentially, what's going on, and we're not laughing at it. Don't get me wrong, but the level of BS that goes on, and if you don't laugh, you cry. Basically, it is ridiculous.
This has a lot of global implications as well as what's happening in Iran, like the people there. But yeah, I think it's just I honestly don't know what else to do, right? Like, I mean, otherwise it'd be a completely very somber podcast, I'd say.
Well,
Um,
yeah. So I mean, like I said, I'm trying to make light of it, but I hope no one gets upset with me. But but it just is like, I mean, mate, I'm not asking for empathy for me, but put yourself in my shoes. I listen to this guy every morning. It's the first thing I have to do every day. He's like, what are we, the 13th of March? He's driving me nuts, people. He's driving me nuts, and it's just like so I'm essentially, if you're following markets, it's just like I wake up in the morning and I look at my phone, and normally within a certain degree, you wouldn't know from this scorecard. Within a certain degree of certainty, I'd know roughly where we're going to be at, and like that's just impossible to do. It's like flipping a coin would be an easier game at this stage. But we got JT last week, so I've managed to pick myself up off the bottom. It was looking pretty grim there. So as per the boys submitted theirs, and I write mine down as well. Because if my kids ever caught me cheating, or if they ever got wind of me cheating, I'd never hear the end of it. So I stuck with Bear. Kai, you're a bear as well. And look, JT, he's gone bull again because he knew that we'd both go bear. So he's still up to it. It's very early on in the year to be pulling out these tactics for the footy tipping comp. Having said that, I did almost go bull this week because I think Trump's going to. I think he's going to try and blitzkrieg the market with something, with just constant misnomer, like misnews. But the reason I went bearish in the end was, I think he made such an ass of himself on Tuesday that I don't think no one really believed him anymore. But like it's the tactics aren't working like they used to. It's I wouldn't say we're wising up to it, but but even his supporter base is deserting him essentially, and the Republicans are leaking stuff against him because they want it done because he's basically screwing them for the primaries. They're a chance of losing the House and the Senate after overwhelmingly winning both houses. And look, I mean, at that point, basically, we just go into 2.5 years of impeachment standings, right? So, and we're nothing's getting done as it is, but I mean, even less will get done. So, and then uncertainty breeds uncertainty.
I feel bad for the American people because obviously the reason why Trump's been elected is because there's changes that need to be made, right? Everyone wanted to have a change in the system, or basically a status quo that's what the appeal for Trump was. But I just think that he hasn't delivered any of what he said he would do, So I think it's kind of like the American people who take the brunt of it. It's not, yeah. It's sad.
Well, it is, and like you said, that's not what they signed up for. Like,
No.
and it's and you'd be kind of furious. They wanted to focus on home, which they were kind of doing, and they wanted to get prices down, the cost of living down. So, and essentially, he's just like, I get why. So Venezuela makes sense in terms of the move to Iran, right? Like, Greenland made sense in terms of, in terms of critical minerals against China. I sort of get why, I get the premise of the moves, but I like just the way he's going about it. I mean, you just, and back to why I'm feeling bearish is like, I think he's backed himself into a corner so badly. I think he's going to do something stupid next week. And if
he's got no choice.
If he takes out another leader, I think the rest of the world's going to kind of back away a little bit. Like, everyone's kind of silent at the moment, but and I didn't think the Venezuela thing. I haven't even looked into the Cuba thing, but that's been mentioned by his press secretary, who she needs a Nobel Prize. That poor girl. She has to walk out and basically like have to. I mean, she delivers it very well. She's Employee of the Year in the White House for sure. But he's enacting like 100-year-old acts, like to commandeer ships to transport oil and along his own coastline, and the Jones Act it's called. Like, I mean, he must have like a room full of people who specialise in niche constitutional law or something, because he keeps enacting all these like niche emergency powers that are built for wartime. They were JT brought up a one where he's now, and I think it's a way to get around the tariffs because he can't do tariffs. He can sanction countries based on their labour laws. So if you're using slave labour, you can apparently. So like, I mean, that's again, it's just all inflationary. Like you can't unwind 30 years of poor policy in. What has he been in power? Are we 100? Are we a full year yet? It is a full year now, right? Yeah, but not by March. I think it's January, isn't it? Well, January or February they usually get put in. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting couple of weeks. I would say, and it's all dominated by the oil price, really. And you can't. I mean, what can you do except for watch the oil price at this point? I mean, you don't want to be short, but I mean,
for the second move, I'd say.
I think that's it. Yeah,
it's inflation. Like we got to look at store of value again at some point, because I think, well, I mean, basically it hasn't moved. Well, our core thesis still stands the same, right? I mean, defense, store of value, it's all going to be the geopolitics is going to continue. Basically, the domino pieces starting to fall. But there's a lot of unknowns that can occur, and a lot of pieces will start moving. But like the biggest medium term thing I think is inflation. Like basically, he's let the genie out of the bottle. This oil spike will lead to, I think, a bit of inflation to come. So yeah, the surprising thing is that precious metals hasn't actually gone. I think what we should do next week.
It's kind of peeled off, and critical minerals have been belted. Like. I think everyone's so focused on oil, and it's not a point of being contrarian, but like things that were on a heater prior are coming back to reasonable prices, and to a certain extent, I think you've kind of got to close your eyes and dollar cost average in the stuff that you believe in, and particularly gold and silver and things like that. I mean. The base case hasn't changed, as you said. The debt's probably going to get the debt gets worse because bond yields are higher. So that store of value is even. So you sort of, I mean, while we've spent most of the time in the podcast talking about, oil prices and inflation, one thing you've got to really pull your head in and do is like kind of look through it, not ignorantly, but look through it in terms of your high conviction stuff. And look, I've been saying for 3 or 4 weeks, with my risk monitor that I do in the morning call, like anything you don't like, just get out. Like just get out, get to cash. There'll be an opportunity come up. I didn't predict this. Like JT's very on top of it. And, but I guess I just assume that he won't be that loose, but I just keep on getting proven wrong. But I think it's a good exercise to go back, and I had a flick through because I did a few portfolio reviews this week and back through our outlook, which seems like an eternity ago. It's only March, and I'm like, and yeah, it all still kind of ticked off, and I did say that in the outlook that inflation was, upwards inflation would be a major risk. Not as in a percentage chance of happening, but as in if it happens, it's like a major risk to the market. So, so much has happened since January the 1st that I'd forgotten the thesis around that. So, I mean, yeah, if you can get our market out, you can get the 2026 outlook on the on Mosaic still, and or you can go to the website and get it as well. So it's free. It's 40 odd pages, but it's probably not a bad thing to go back and have a look at actually. I mean, there's some stuff in it that would be a little bit dated, but not by much. But yeah, I think
next week, what we will try to do is a historical replay of asset classes over that 1970s oil spike, that inflationary period.
That's a good one to do, actually.
Yeah, a lot of similar characteristics. It'll be good to just kind of see a little bit more in depth how it played out in history. It might give
maybe even some of the, and we can probably we'll cross check it against some of the Iraq invasions and stuff like that. Desert Storm, and I don't know, was it Desert Storm 2? I don't know. And and see what run a little bit of back testing and probably try and focus on the positives. But I mean, at this point, you probably just you've got to probably just be long oil futures and as a hedge, and probably not even short the market, just long oil. We were probably a bit slow on that, I got to say, despite the fact that we weren't aggressive enough because oil had kind of been grinding higher, and you'd never want to pick an 80% rally in 12 months, but particularly not when most of it's in a week. But yeah, so I think when we shout out, there was a Kramer of the week. I just couldn't find it, but Jim Kramer was talking about a short exit or a quick exit out of Iran, and everyone's just gone, oh no. So but I mean, at this point, I think the Kramer of the week's got to go to our friend here, the Trump truthiness, and with his 5 out of 5 level of delusion, and like I said, by the way, extreme grandiosity and reality divergence. That's Grok's words, not mine. All right. So it was pretty impressive. Pretty impressive, and we'll try to keep up. I might even try to, because there is value in tracking him scrambling, because I think he has the same pretty obvious personality traits at times. So yeah, it might actually be worthwhile in many ways. So we're the same again. 2 bears and a bull next week. Good luck, JT. Not so look, scan here for Mosaic. You can also go to YouTube, and because if you need to like and subscribe, I've been told to say that by the digital marketing department, which is just me still. But you need to follow us on YouTube. You need to follow us on Apple Podcasts, or follow us if you can. It helps us get a little bit more coverage and get a little bit more out there. The free webinar that we did on the software sector, where I just essentially interviewed Kai because, well, for obvious reasons, and which was really good, pretty short too, and we really focused on the Q&A and actually answered people's questions as they came in, because we were lucky enough to have someone smart enough that can do that in Kai. So yeah, Mosaic is literally a living proof of lived experience in terms of setting up a platform with AI tools, etc., and that lower barrier to entry. So listen to the man. He's got five pillars, or as Henry Jennings called it this week, 17 pillars of wisdom. When I was on the call this week, but you can scan here to get Mosaic. And just a reminder with Mosaic, the content and the special reports and all the podcasts and everything that you can see there on the screen, they're all free. So that part of Mosaic's free. So at the moment, things like that HTML, the document about previous guerrilla warfare and the traffic to the Strait of Hormuz, it's all up there, and you get it, and you can look it up, and it's like actionable stuff. Look, if you want the recommendation services, that's where you pay. It's less than a coffee a day, but this thing's really useful to. So with a lot of websites like Reuters and Bloomberg and investing.com, etc., you've got to sift through millions of stories to find out what, and then you don't really like the stuff that we put up there is aimed at helping you be able to actually like use the information basically. So do yourself a favour and sign up. You can go to mosaic at mpcmarkets.com.au, and if you're really nice to Kai, he might just give you a month of the recommendations for free. Just say you're a podcast viewer. We know who most of you are, and you get it on your phone as well. So, but those who had the phone app this week got pushed the notification for the oil, or oil recommendation, for instance. It just comes up as a notification. I mean, but then 3 hours later it was 10% higher. So, in situations like this, it's actually pretty damn handy to have something like that. So, get yourself onto it. Kai, thank you very much, my friend. JT, you were sorely missed. But he's on kids duty at the moment. He's doing pickups and drop-offs and all sorts, playing Mr. Mum. But yeah, no, he's not hiding in shame. I didn't mean that. We'll definitely. I reckon that's a great idea for next week, Kai. We'll do the playbook coming out of the crisis and try to be a little bit more positive. And I'll and hopefully I'll have enough material out of Mr. Trump to do my truthiness meter again. We'll see how we go there. But thanks everyone for listening. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
General advice warning. The content presented in this presentation is intended for informational purposes only and provides general advice only. It does not take into account your personal objectives, financial situation, or specific needs. This information should not be the sole resource when making investment decisions. We strongly recommend you seek the advice of a financial professional.